the City Travel with Kids podcast, helping you plan big city trips with kids. Brought to you by Little City Trips. Hello and thank you for joining us for this week's City Travel with Kids podcast. I'm Marianne Rogerson and today we are going to be talking all about Christmas. I'm joined today by my co-hosts. We have Kerry Hedrick. Hi, Kerry.
Hi, how are you?
And Marta Coriali. Hey, Marta.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, now I know it's maybe a little too early to be talking about Christmas because it is only September. But if you are planning to travel over Christmas, you will be needing to make sure you have everything booked pretty soon if you don't already. So today we're going to be sharing a little Christmas inspiration from around the world. We're going to be talking about visiting Santa in Lapland. We're going to be covering Christmas in Europe. And we're even going to be talking about Christmas in the Middle East and on the beach. On top of all that, we will be sharing some practical tips about what to do if you are traveling with kids over Christmas time. But before we go getting our holly and mistletoe ready, I just want to remind you that if you want to be kept up to date with all our latest episodes, then don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And if you enjoy listening to the City Travel with Kids podcast, please do us a favour and leave us a review in the Apple Store or wherever you download it from. This really helps other families to find us. As always, if you have any questions after listening to today's episode, you can come and chat to us in our Facebook group, City Travel with Kids. We would love to see you there. And finally, if you want to find a copy of today's show notes, you can find them on our website at littlecitytrips.com/podcast, and we'll be linking to anything we talk about and any relevant information there today. Now, we do have a guest lined up to come and talk to us later. We've got Kevin from Wandering Waggars, who's going to be sharing all about his amazing experience in Lapland. But before that, I would love to hear from my co-hosts about their favourite Christmas experiences. Now, Marta, you've always lived in Europe, where you've got the traditional cold weather and probably what we imagine as your traditional kind of Christmas. What does Christmas look like for your family, and where's your favourite place you've spent Christmas?
Yeah, so Christmas for us is very much a family affair. And we do travel a little bit over the winter, but because we live in Ireland, where Christmas is absolutely magical, I have to say we don't travel maybe as much as other times of the year. Like if you're in Dublin over Christmas, it's just especially in the build up to the festivities, like the city's full of, lights and cheer, the interior with the pubs and the mulled wine and the hot drinks and the hot chocolate. Like it really is a traditional, really warm, family friendly type of experience. When we do feel like mixing it up a little bit, we do mostly go to, continental Europe, and we take weekends away. I find that the best way to get into Christmas spirit is to go before Christmas. So maybe the weeks at the beginning of December. I find that's the time when the cities, they may have the Christmas markets where you can get, special gifts or different ideas, and you can just get into the spirit of things.
And what would you say is your favourite place to go to if you're travelling over Christmas?
Favorite destinations? There are a few. I am very, very fond of Amsterdam, which is fabulous over Christmas. They do have in front of the museums on the museum plain, they have, big ice rink. They have, Christmas stalls. So that's a great one for me. And I also love going to Switzerland, where maybe the Christmas traditions are not as big, but, that's winter wonderland kind of feel. If you go to Geneva or Salzburg with the snowy peaks of the Alps around you, that's a family favorite for us as well.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned Christmas markets, and I think that's a big draw for a lot of people to go to Europe in the lead up to Christmas, so that kind of magical Christmas market feel. Do you have any favorites?
I think for Christmas markets, it depends very much what you're looking for. Like, I think if you want to have, let's say, one afternoon at the market as part of a longer city trip, I mentioned Amsterdam, and that is one of my favorites. I was also once in Trier in Germany. That's got a lovely Christmas market. But if you're looking for the full on, exploring of a large market and getting immersed in the festive spirits, then I think you probably need to go to Germany. I think that's where, the heart of the Christmas market experience happens.
And get your Glühwein.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And actually, Vienna is a place with a fabulous Christmas market, I've heard. And Vienna is great for families. It's really easy to explore a city. So I think that could be, I haven't been over Christmas, but I think that looks fabulous.
I've heard that's a good one too. And we do actually have an article on our website all about the Christmas markets, so we will link to that in the show notes too. And how about you, Kerry? Living in the Middle East, I imagine Christmas must look very different to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my upbringing and my experience with Christmas is very different to everyone else's. So I actually grew up in Australia. So warm, hot, sunny Christmas days, barbecues outside are exactly my memory of what Christmas should feel like. So it's not too different in the Middle East. The temperature's about the same. But obviously we're in a Muslim country. So a lot of people question, do we actually have Christmas in the Middle East? And absolutely we do, where I live in the United Arab Emirates. It's not a public holiday, but it's very much celebrated in all the hotels and all the retail shopping centres. So you can still go into a shop and hear Christmas carols playing in the shopping mall. There's still a big deal made about it in the industry. It's just not physically a day off for most people. But it does follow the winter school holidays for us. So we always get Christmas Day off. My husband will normally take the day off work. And what's quite traditional for us here is to go out to a family brunch. So this is where the big hotels put on a massive buffet type feast with all you can eat and drink. Last year we had Santa turn up on the back of a camel. A couple of years ago we had Santa come on the back of a Formula One car around the Yaz Grand Prix track. So
fantastic.
It's for us and for my kids, certainly that still feels like Christmas to them. They've never experienced the white Christmas, although they are desperate to do so and remind me all the time. So really looking forward to getting some of Kevin's tips later in this episode so we know what to do for a white Christmas.
Yeah, I think the idea of a white Christmas is always appealing to kids who've never had it. My kids had never had it until we went to New York, and they grew up in Singapore and Hong Kong, where obviously they're not going to get a white Christmas. And so I think when we went to New York a couple of years ago, that's why it was really so magical for them. Although it wasn't actually a white Christmas because it wasn't snowing at Christmas. There, we managed to get out to the ski slopes and just experience a really proper traditional kind of Christmas with that magical feel.
What's the usual for you then, Mariam? Where do you normally spend your Christmas breaks?
We've spent Christmas in lots of different places. Like you, I kind of grew up on having Christmas on the beach, so that's almost normal for me. As a family now, we've had Christmas in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Australia, and on the beach. We had a really fun Christmas in Langkawi in Malaysia, which was awesome. We built a snowman out of sand on the beach on Christmas Day. And yeah, that was fun. I really enjoyed that actually, but it definitely lacked a little something in the Christmas spirit. Although the hotel we were staying in put on a big Christmas meal on the Christmas Eve, and they had Santa and carols and things. Christmas Day itself, it didn't quite have the Christmas feel, which I think if you are going to be traveling and on the beach, you have to be aware that that might be the case.
And how did New York compare then? You said you went a couple of years ago. Can you describe what New York feels like at Christmas time?
Oh, New York at Christmas was absolutely magical. I think it was a real dream come true for me. I think you see it in all the movies and things all the time, don't you, at Christmas time? And it really, really was just magical. Like the whole place is lit up and Christmassy, and the Christmas lights everywhere. And there's so much to do with the kids there.
And did you see the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center?
We did, yeah. I mean, again, that's just like something, like a big bucket list item, seeing that, going ice skating at the Rockefeller Center or in one of the Christmas markets. They also do Christmas markets there. There's one at Bryant Park, which is really cool. We met Santa at Macy's, which is like the famous one to go, obviously, from Miracle on 34th Street. So that was cool to meet Santa there. And then there's all the amazing shows that are on. So we went to see Elf at Madison Square Gardens, which is really cool. Then they always have the Nutcracker showing in New York during Christmas. And there's the kind of all singing, all dancing institution, which is the Radio City Christmas Spectacular that features the Rockettes. So there's loads of cool shows to go and see as well. Obviously, then there's the Christmas shopping, and it really is a magical place to spend Christmas, I think.
I think you've got me absolutely convinced. My husband is lucky enough to get a work trip to New York around December every year, and me and the kids have never been able to join him. So I think after hearing all this, we'll be campaigning hard to come on the next Christmas trip with him.
Oh, you have to. It really is. It was just, unfortunately, both my kids got a really bad gastro bug, so that kind of put a bit of a spanner in the works. But really, all the experiences, when I look back, and I just think, it was a really, really amazing Christmas. And also for us, having brought the kids up in the tropics, you've got ski slopes really close to New York as well. So we spent 3 nights up in the ski slopes as well. And you can get there. We got an Uber to get there. It was like an hour, 2-hour drive. And then you've got, really cool, can take the kids skiing and tobogganing and all that. So that was really cool too.
That's fabulous. Now, don't keep us in suspense any longer. Are we going to talk about Lapland?
We are. So I sat down with Kevin earlier and he shared with us all about Lapland. And it's worth listening to. I have to say, I've always been intrigued about Lapland, but this has got me really super excited. So let's cross over to that now. Okay, so now I'm joined by Kevin Waggar from the awesome family travel blog Wandering Waggars. And Kevin is going to share with us all about his experience visiting Lapland with his kids. Hi, Kevin. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Marianne. It's great to be here.
Now, Lapland, I think, must be the ultimate holiday destination for kids around Christmas time. And I have to admit, I haven't even told my kids about this as a possibility because I know I would never hear the end of it. But I'd love to surprise them one day while the magic of Christmas is still alive in them. So I am super excited to hear all about what you have to say. So tell me, Kevin, did it live up to your expectations?
I didn't have a lot of high hopes for Lapland when I first booked the trip. It was something that we definitely did with the kids in mind. We were worried about the whole spirit of Christmas starting to fade on them. So we decided, hey, if there's one place that we could travel where they could really get into Christmas and have an amazing time, it would be Lapland. So we booked our trip and it blew away all of our expectations. I am a big believer in cultural travel and educational travel and adventure and fun and excitement when we go to any place around the world. And Lapland hit all of them. It was amazing. And even though we were there when there was about 2 hours of daylight during the day, everything was bright and everything was exciting and fun. We really had an amazing time.
Awesome. And so the main thing I guess people want to go to Lapland for with their kids is to meet Santa. Was that a cool experience or was it a little bit cheesy?
Both. Yeah, it was absolutely both, which I think any Santa experience is supposed to be.
Yes,
if it's not a little cheesy and a little goofy, then it's probably not being done right. The one thing I will say is you have to pick your Santa experiences in Lapland very carefully.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of Santa experiences in Lapland. There's not just one or two. And part of the struggle that I found was making sure that we could keep that idea of the magic alive by kind of hiding some of the other Santa experiences that were in their face along the way. So when we went, we did the Santa experience at Santa Claus Village, which is just outside of Rovaniemi.
Okay.
But there's actually 2 Santa experiences just in Santa Claus Village.
Right.
There's also one right next door at Santa Park. And of course, all of the major experiences and destinations within Lapland, like Levi and Sarsialka and even Inari, all have multiple Santa experiences that you can have, whether you want to meet him in a cottage in the middle of the woods where you take a reindeer sleigh or a dog sled there, or if you want to meet him in a mall. You can literally have any kind of Santa experiences from top to bottom. But yes, the one that we had was amazing. And our kids came away from it absolutely wide-eyed and amazed, to the point where my oldest son looked at me and he said, Dad, that was the real one. He knew everything about us. And that was cool. I mean, that's like, I've never seen him speechless before, and he was completely speechless during the meeting.
Oh, amazing. And how did you choose that one?
We chose it because we were there as media, and that's the one that they gave to us.
Okay, fair enough.
But it is probably arguably one of the most popular Santa experiences in Lapland. It's close to Rovaniemi, which is the big city that most people visit when they go to Lapland. It's in one of the most popular tourist destinations, which is Santa Claus Village. And there was a lineup around the building to get into it.
Okay.
But even though there's a lineup, it was still a pretty cool experience because along the way, you're not just standing in a big giant line. There's all these little secret things that you can do. There's doors, and you can look through the keyhole. And when you look through the keyhole, you see elves making presents
Cool.
or building things or getting into trouble because, elves are so mischievous. So that was really fun because it made, what was probably a 45-minute to an hour-long wait go by with, in almost no time at all. It was great.
Yeah, that's
and each meeting with Santa at the Santa Claus Village is only about 5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's run very much like a machine.
Sure. Yeah.
And they get you in and they get you out in the time that you have. But during that time that you're in there, you feel like you have all the attention in the world.
Perfect.
And you're the only person that matters to the Santa Claus at that time. Obviously, you look through the reviews and some are great and some maybe not so much. I know the one that we experienced at Santa Claus Village, which I believe is called Santa Claus Office, was one of the reasons we liked it so much is if you look at all the pictures on the wall, it's all the same Santa.
Right. Okay.
Every picture is the same person that's doing it. So you look at the wall and you know that all those pictures that are on the wall of, movie stars and rock stars and crazy death metal musicians that have gone there and gotten their photo of Santa too. All the pictures that are on the wall are of the Santa that you are going to see. And that helps solidify that magic that's there to let you know that this is the guy. This is the one that you want to see. This is the one that everyone's going to see. You don't see some, get there and you say, that's not the same face that I saw out in the hall there, which I thought was really great. I mean, the attention to detail was just amazing.
Oh, it sounds so fabulous. Okay, and what about apart from Santa? What are other activities that we can do there?
Oh man, there's so much, and that's really what blew me away about Lapland. Is there's the standard stuff that you see all the time. From the reindeer sleigh rides and the dog sledding and things like that, which are great. But Lapland's a huge area, and there's about 4 major cities in Finnish Lapland that really make up the whole area. So there's Rovaniemi in the south, Levi in the west, Saarsialka in the east, and then Inari, which is up in the far north. So Inari, Rovaniemi, just north of that, that's where the Arctic Circle runs through. So that tends to be where you've got your magical places like Santa Claus Village and Santa Park and things like that. And there's a lot of great activities there. We went hiking over waterfalls and rivers. We took the kids snowmobiling for the first time. Cool. So getting our 3-year-old out on a snowmobile was super wild. Some of those experiences are better than others. We went on one originally with our oldest son, and that was just him riding around in a circle. The one that we did over at Santa Claus Village was a lot better. They had like a trail with bumps, and kids could kind of race each other, and it was a lot of fun. Cool. The museums in Rovaniemi are amazing too. So there's the Pilkki Museum, which sounds super boring. It's a museum for kids focused on the industrial life within northern Finland. Okay. Sounds so dry and sad. And I didn't have high expectations. And we got there, and it was awesome. You get there, and the kids can climb up in giant tractors with like huge picking gears. They can build things. They somehow made the making of toilet paper really interesting and fascinating. There's a karaoke thing for the kids to do that makes videos that you can download and take with you. And it was just a blast. It's this cool museum.
Wow, who knew?
Yeah, and there's also the Arcticum Museum, which is, if you look at pictures of Rovaniemi, it's probably one of the things that you would see. It's this big glass tunnel that's kind of built into the ground that goes through a highway. And it's a place where you go and you can learn about Sami history and Sami culture, which is the indigenous community that lives up in the Lapland area. You can learn about the nature and the environment and the animals, and you can see polar bears and stuffed animals and things like that that will teach you all about all the things that you won't really see inside the kind of theme park areas. There's a zoo up there called the Renua Wildlife Park. Not probably the best
Okay.
zoo I've ever experienced. I'd say if there's one place I would say to avoid, it's a bit depressing.
Oh, okay.
They have a polar bear exhibit there, and it's after seeing polar bears in Churchill and Winnipeg and places where they had really great environments to live in. Seeing them there was a little on the depressing side.
Right, yeah.
But if you go up north too, there's Inari, and Inari is probably the capital of Lapland. So that's where the Sami Parliament lives.
Okay.
So you can go up there and you can see the Sami Museum, which I believe is called the Sita Museum. It's this fascinating look into the history, the struggles, and kind of the reintroduction of Sami culture into the north of Finland, which was really cool. You can also go into the Sami Parliament building in Inari, and that's really cool too. I mean, I didn't think our kids would like that, but they thought it was so neat being able to go into the actual parliament and sitting in all the individual chairs and tending to make speeches and things like that. One thing that was really cool that I was shocked that my kid ended up getting into is the ice swimming and sauna culture.
Yeah, okay.
So saunas in Finland are huge. There's more saunas than there are people.
Wow. That's a good stat.
And one thing that's really popular is they have these areas where they'll keep the water moving, and you can jump into the freezing cold water, and then you get out, and then you go have a sauna, and you kind of wash, rinse, repeat, and do that a few times. So I did this myself when we were in Rovaniemi. There's a public one that only costs just a couple of euros to go do. So when I did it, my oldest son looked at it and said, you know what? I want to do that too. Unfortunately, the sauna was broken at this one, so I didn't really feel comfortable having him jump into the freezing cold water without a nice, comfortable, warm place to go afterwards. So we went up north to a place called Kittilop. I'm totally massacring this name, but there's a lot of double letters, and I'm not entirely sure how the Finnish pronounce them, but it's Kittilopa.
Okay.
And it's a place where there's a lot of hiking and Nordic skiing and things like that. And they have one of the most popular wood-fired, traditional Finnish smoke saunas.
Okay, cool.
And a great place to swim. So when we went, we decided, let's all do this together. We'll make it a family thing. So my 3-year-old decided, maybe this isn't for me. I think I'm swimming in the ridiculously cold water 200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. I'm going to leave that one for you guys. But C decided that he was going to go in. And the first time he just dipped his toes, ran in, and then said, wow, this is really cold, and then got out and went in the sauna. And then he decided to come back. He's like, okay, I'm warm now, I'm going to go in. And then he just cannonballed right into the water and jumped out pretty fast after that, and loved it. And it's such a cool feeling to do that. I mean, adults for sure will love the feeling that you get from it, because it's just this rush. All the blood kind of sucks into the core of your body, and then you get out, and then you go into the nice hot sauna, and then everything just relaxes, and you feel like $1,000,000 when you're done.
Yeah, I'm a bit pathetic when it comes to cold water, but I'm sure if I was if I was there, I'd have to give it a go.
It's part of the culture. One of those things you have to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And how cold is it actually there? So, I mean, obviously, you guys are from Canada. Your kids are probably quite used to the cold, but for my kids who grew up in the tropics, like, how cold is it? And is there anything particularly you'd recommend packing to take with us?
You know what? It wasn't terribly cold when we went. And to be fair, Finland was having a bit of a warm spell when we arrived. It was December, and all of the Lapland travel boards were full of parents that were just freaking out because there had been no snow yet.
Oh, okay.
No snow. Christmas in Lapland is almost unheard of. We weren't too worried about that because coming from Canada, we're used to snow, and that wasn't such a big deal for us. But just before we arrived, they did get about a foot of snow. So we had some wet stuff on the ground when we arrived. But it wasn't too cold. In fact, it was pretty comfortable.
Okay.
You want to make sure when you travel to Lapland, the big thing that you want to make sure is that you stay dry.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you have clothes and overclothes that are able to withstand the moisture. If you're Kids are playing in the snow. They've got like wool socks on. They got boots, leggings, or what would we call them? We call them snow pants or ski pants,
Yeah.
and a hat. Those are the main things that you got to worry. Just stay dry, and you'll be comfortable for the most part. From there, just wear layers, things that aren't going to get wet, and just if you get too hot, you can take things off. If you get too cold, you can put things on, and that's usually the best way to do it. Because if you're running around a lot, you'll get pretty toasty pretty quickly. But if you're just sitting there in the cold, then you'll probably start to feel it after a little while.
Yeah, okay. And then before we finish up, how about some practicalities? Where, if we want to go to Lapland, where do we fly into? Where do we stay?
If you're flying into Lapland, you're probably going to land in Rovaniemi and head out from there. Most people will stay either in Rovaniemi or go to some of the hotels near Santa Claus Village. Some of the popular hotels are Santa's Igloos Arctic Circle and the Santa Claus Holiday Village, which are really close to Santa Claus Village. Santa Claus Holiday Village is actually part of that village. There's all these individual cabins where you can actually order presents brought to the cabin overnight. Wow. So you can wake up on Christmas and you've got the presents under the tree and everything like that, and everyone can still have a good night's sleep. There's also the Snowman Glass Resort, which is in Santa Claus Village as well. It's a really popular kind of high-end resort, and it has an outdoor kind of snow park that's built into it as well. You can only have access to that snow park if you are staying at that resort. Okay. There's like an ice castle and an ice restaurant and things like that you can eat in. It's pretty cool. Some of the other popular areas in Lapland are Levi, which is kind of what you would call the ski area of Lapland. So Finland isn't exactly a high country. There's not a lot of mountains there, but they do have a few ski resorts here and there. Okay. They would be found in Levi, and they're very resort style, big, comfortable, popular, very popular with especially with British people coming in. Again, you can have all the same Santa Claus experiences, all different outdoor experiences, from the reindeer to the husky rides and things like that are all available there. And the east side, you would do Sarasielka, which is again very resorty, more of a town. They have a lot of Nordic skiing there and a few more forest-based Santa experiences. Okay. Not a lot of people head north up to the Inari area. It's a really beautiful area, especially if you want to see the Northern Lights. Obviously, the farther north you get, the better of a chance you have of experiencing them. I really enjoyed Inari, and they have a few places where you can get cabins, which is one of the greatest ways to see the Northern Lights. Get a cabin right off Lake Inari, and you can look out over the lake and see the Northern Lights, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And how about booking? How far in advance do you think you should organize it if you want to go?
Things can book up pretty fast there, especially if you're looking right at Christmas time. If you're willing to go a little bit before or kind of move your travels into January, you get a lot more flexibility. But if you want to do like the proper Lapland Christmas experience, I would recommend booking 3 to 6 months ahead of time, because things can really get crazy.
Yeah, okay. Wow, do you know what? That has just been amazing. I had no idea that there was so much more to Lapland than just dog sledding and meeting Santa. So it's been really, really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I'm pretty sure you've convinced everybody to go. Okay, before you go, can you quickly tell us where we can read more about this on your blog and where we can follow your adventures on social media?
Absolutely. You can check out all of my Finland and otherworldly content over at www.wanderingwagars.com. You can find me on all of the major social media channels, from YouTube to Facebook and in between. Just look for Wandering Wagars, Wagars.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks so much, Marianne.
How cool was that? I bet he has totally convinced you ladies to go to Lapland as well. And I tell you what was really I tell you what was really cool is actually, Kevin told me afterwards, they actually spent 2 weeks in Lapland. So not only were all the things that he told us about, but they really spent a lot of time exploring. So you don't just have to go there. I think a lot of people just go there for the weekend, or for, a few days, just to go and meet Santa, do the dog sledding, ride a reindeer, and then that's it. But they did so many cool things as well that it's worth really looking into maybe having a longer trip there too.
Yeah, I think that sounded absolutely amazing and very much like the kind of trip that I'd love to take, that you go, you stay a little longer, really feel, the nature around you. Although I have to say, one thing that worries me a little bit when it comes to Christmas travel, and maybe one of the reasons why we tend to stay home actually on Christmas Eve and Christmas night, is just the practicalities of Santa and worldwide travel. For instance, like I can tell my kids, like this happens to Tooth Fairy as well. So with Santa, this would be the same, but much bigger. It's like, will Santa find us? How do we tell him where we are? Do we need to tell him? Or, does he know because it's magical? So, yeah, like I'd like to talk a little bit about the practicalities of this, longer Christmas adventures.
Yeah, well, we've traveled quite a lot at Christmas, and I don't know if anyone else has this, but we have one of those elf on the shelves. So we
we have one of those.
So we always tell. What was that, Gary?
Is it a blessing or a curse to bring elf on the shelf?
Well, yeah, we do always take elf on the shelf with us, but we also use elf on the shelf to tell Santa where we are, which is quite handy.
Very handy.
Otherwise, I think a lot of people just leave a note, or else you just say, well, Santa just knows everything, doesn't he? He knows where you are and he knows what you're doing. So I don't think they need to worry about him finding them.
And what about the actual gifts then, Marion? How have you managed to handle Christmas Day itself, and how the gifts get there when you're all sharing luggage to your destination? How does that work?
Yeah, I've always managed to be pretty good at hiding them at the bottom of the suitcase, but you obviously need to put quite a bit of thought into what gifts you're going to take, because you can't take huge gifts with you. And even when we spent Christmas in New York, I bought everything on Amazon and had it shipped there. But again, I had to make sure it wasn't going to be too big to bring back again in our suitcase. So you are kind of restricted by that. One thing I did learn was not to leave a note from Santa saying that there's a big gift waiting for them at home, because I did do that one year thinking that that would make them excited. But literally, as soon as Christmas Day was over, they started asking to go home every day because they just wanted to go home. And we still had like 5 days left of our holiday, and I started getting really annoyed with them for wanting to go home, like asking me 5 times a day to go home. So don't do that.
That's an excellent tip, because I have actually, this is the first Christmas we're actually going to be spending on the move for Christmas Day itself, and I have worded our children up that perhaps if there's anything big, Santa might have to leave it with the elf.
Yeah.
So yeah, top pointer before rather than after for the big gifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, when it comes to packing your presents, I would really recommend making a packing list before you go, just so that you don't forget things, and just remember things like make sure you've got all the presents that you want to include on there, and also things like wrapping paper and sticky tape and stuff like that. Because if you find yourself in a beach resort or staying in the middle of nowhere or wherever you are, they might not be easy to get hold of.
Gift tags. It's always the gift tags for me.
And then other things, I think you need to be super organized, because Christmas is always a busy time wherever you're going to go. So you need to just make sure you've booked your accommodation, your tours, and things like if you want to go out on Christmas Day for lunch or anything, just check. If you want to go to one of the more popular places, like I know in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, those brunches you were talking about earlier, Kerry, they book up months in advance. So just try
months in advance, exactly.
So yeah, you just need to make sure you're super organized. And another thing I think that really helps is if you can take some decorations, or we talked about the elf, but your advent calendars, any other little traditional decorations you maybe have at home, bring a little bit of it with you to keep your kind of home spirit Christmas with you. But then also it's nice to embrace some traditions from where you're going. Because that's what's going to make it a memorable Christmas for you, because you've kind of done something different that year. So also, I think maybe just really research your destination. For example, Kerry was saying in Abu Dhabi, there's maybe a place where everybody goes to spend Christmas. So it's worth trying to figure that out. If you want to be where everybody is, do some research, or maybe there's the place to be on Christmas Day, or there's a beach that everybody goes to or something. So I think, do your research.
Oh, another one to be aware of too is what actually happens on Christmas Day at your destination country. I know it surprises a lot of people in the UK that the public transport system closes down completely over Christmas and doesn't reopen till Boxing Day. So if you are making plans to get from A to B, make sure you've actually got transportation as well.
Yeah, good point, actually. Yes, another thing, I know in a lot of European countries, they celebrate Christmas more so on Christmas Eve. And we actually got caught out by this when we had Christmas in Langkawi in Malaysia, because the hotel we were staying in had a European hotel manager. So they put the big Christmas celebration on Christmas Eve. And I deliberately didn't have any of the turkey that night because I was like, I'm saving it for Christmas Day. And on Christmas Day, they had nothing traditional. And I was like, I had a nasi goreng for my Christmas dinner, and I was feeling really put out by it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point. Like, I'm thinking, I'm from Rome, where Christmas is maybe even different, because you have all the lights of the cheer, but also, like, the one thing that I associate the most with Christmas would maybe be kind of the religious side to it. Like, for instance, if you go to Rome, you may want to go maybe to midnight mass on the 24th, this kind of stuff. So, I do think, how Christmas feels in a different place and what people do and what side of Christmas they tap into can be very different from what we expect. So definitely, it's a good point. Research a destination, see what's there, and, you may tap into an amazing tradition, whether it's your thing or not. It's an experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, another thing that, in terms of practical terms with traveling over Christmas, or generally if you're in Europe during the winter, so it's just consider the weather. The weather can turn bad, and this means that, for travel plans, you may find your flights being delayed. It could be longer queues in the airport. So my main thing about winter travel in Europe, or I guess in the US as well, is have some buffer time. Don't cut it too short with, maybe stopovers, layovers, changing planes, or get to the airport on time, and make sure you have that extra bit of time should things go not exactly how you wanted them to go.
This absolutely happened to me, Matt, a few years ago when I was living in London, and my husband and I flew to Russia for the Christmas time. So that was the only white Christmas I actually had, was with my husband. But we nearly missed it because it was a week when Heathrow Airport had been shut for several days due to the bad weather, and we were luckily one of the first flights to get out again. But be well prepared that your flight could be delayed. And I guess if Christmas Day itself is crucial to you, don't fly Christmas Eve. Try and allow yourself that few day buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can add something else, is also lost luggage happens. So I would say if you are carrying gifts hidden in your bag, make sure that at least some of them are in your carry-on, because you can have travel insurance, and you should, but if there is a delay and then there's no gifts on Christmas Day, that obviously is a huge letdown for the kids. So carry-on is the way to go.
Oh my goodness, can you imagine? I don't want to even think about it.
Yeah, how do you explain that,
Okay, well, we'd love to continue this conversation with you over on our City Travel with Kids Facebook group, so come and find us there. And in the meantime, we also have a few guides for winter travel on our website, and a guide to the Christmas markets as well. So that's a wrap for our Christmas episode, if you'll excuse the pun. And remember that if you want to be kept up to date with the podcast, then don't forget to subscribe in your favorite podcast listener. And if you enjoy what you're listening to, remember to please leave us a review. And as a reminder, you can find the show notes from today's episode at littlecitytrips.com/podcast. Until next time, happy traveling, friends.